Hey everyone, welcome to the September edition of Leading as Leaders. I am your host, Avery Nesbitt. Hey, today I am here with a great friend of mine. His name is Doug Paul. He is the pastor of Vision and Mobilization at East End Fellowship Church in Richmond, Virginia. He's also the Innovation Strategist at 100 Movements and the author of the newly released Ready or Not, Kingdom Innovation. Doug, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. This is going to be an amazing interview.
Well, I hope I can live up to that. But thank you for having me. Excited to be here with you, Avery, at least virtually. I wish I was in Atlanta with you, but we'll take what we can get.
We'll get there. We'll get there one week at a time. Hey, so listen, I've known you for a while, and in the circles that we run in, you're never the guy that's like, hey, I have this idea and let's just do it. I haven't thought it through. I don't have a plan for it. Let's just go. We need those people, but that's not you.
Love those people.
So,
I'm just not
we love those
person.
people, but you're not that guy.
I'm just not that guy. Yeah.
So if there's something behind something, if there's a strategy for something, you're the guy. You're the guy that's gonna get us there. So whether it's talking to church planners, whether it's talking about what you're doing at your own church and house churches and spreading the kingdom, or whether it's the work you do at 100 Movements, everything has a purpose behind it. You just wrote, and it's about to be released, Ready or Not, Kingdom Innovation for a Brave New World. It's going to be a new book that's coming out, and I have to know, we're going to get into what the book's about and give us sort of the cliff notes, but more to it than that. I want to find out why this book and why now. I know there's a story behind it. It has to be an amazing reason. That's what I want to know. Why this book? Why now?
So I started working on the book 3 years ago, and I was really trying to like, there's a process that I use, and the team that I work with uses around innovation and helping, whether that's churches, socialpreneurs, people who run nonprofits, how do they get innovation for wherever they're stuck, right? And I wanted to put together a book that would help people, but also be entertaining at the same time. Right. So I started it 3 years ago, and I got to a draft that was about 95% done. And we were getting ready to sign with a publisher in March of 2020. And the runway was going to be about 2 years from the time that it was, that we signed the book contract to when it is that we finish and it's out. And then the pandemic hits. And typically speaking, it takes about 18 months on the fast track trying to get a book out because the editing process is intense. And so when we signed with the publisher, we decided we were gonna like turbo fast track it. And so we started the process of book editing at the end of March, and we will be releasing October 6th. So it's about a 6-month turnaround. And so it was bananas, man. It meant every Saturday I would get up at 5 a.m. and I would just go down to my basement office and I would just work on the editing process from about 5 a.m. to about 8 o'clock that night. And I did that for about 4.5 months. And there's usually one other day a week where I would have to spend half the day as well. I will never do that again. I will never do that again. But I think that the impulse was, we were working with a couple of thousand church leaders when the pandemic hit. And they just didn't know what to do. Like, innovation is a skill set that you can learn, but it is a skill set that most Christian leaders don't have right now because it's not been treated as essential. We treat preaching as essential, or vision casting as essential, or organizational acumen as an essential. But innovation, there is no way forward in this world without that. And what the pandemic revealed is that we don't have that, but we can grow it. That's a skill we can learn. So that's really the why of the book. But that's the easy reason is there is a pandemic. The big why, though, and it's one that's going to stick around, is it used to be that cultural change happened every 20 or 30 years, about the rate of a generation.
Yeah.
So culture reinvents, upends, completely changes every 20 or 30 years. Because of what mobile technology has done, it's now reinventing every 18 months.
Are you serious?
Every 18 months, which means the world
Wow.
that you lived in 2 years ago doesn't exist anymore. And what you
Right.
were doing 2 years ago in leading is far less effective than you think that it is, or that
Wow.
you want to believe that it is.
Yeah.
And so it means the most sure thing in our world is that change is happening right now, like shifting
Yeah.
underneath your feet. We got to learn how to adapt and innovate.
Gosh, that's so good. So I assume, based off of just what it's called, Ready or Not,
Yeah.
Kingdom Innovation for a Brave New World. I get it now. I get how we got here from March to October. That is lightning.
Lightning.
That is lightning fast. Wow.
On the other side of launch month, I'm just going to sleep.
For a month.
Yeah.
So when we crack this open, when we get this, because I'm going to get my copy, when we get this, what's the big idea? What's out there? What's in your heart that you're putting out so that we can launch into it? And something that you kind of maybe just peeked in a little bit is that innovation has never been seen as essential. All these other things, you got to be savvy. You got to be a great communicator. You got to be all this, but innovation is sort of we have people that do that, right? We have innovation departments that do that. So like, maybe is that it a little bit? What's the big idea that we're going to grab a hold of in this new book?
Yeah, a couple of things like pop to my mind. Number one is that Christian leaders need the skill of innovation like a carpenter needs a hammer. It's not the only tool in your tool belt, but it's an important one. And if you are missing it, you're really going to be an ineffective leader, because it will work its way into literally everything that you do. It's a good news book, because the good news is you can learn it. And very specifically, I talk about how it's not just innovation, it is kingdom innovation. And the way that I define that is kingdom innovation is something that's new, it works, and it brings glory to Jesus. And so that's not just for the church, that's for all places and spaces.
Yeah.
So whether you're a business owner who is going after the common good, whether you're a nonprofit leader, whether you're in the business sector, whether you are a church leader, we all kind of need that. But the way that I really wanted to go after is because we've got a lot of misconceptions and myths about how innovation works. And those things that are actually attached in our heart and our head. And so it meant that I felt that the way that the book needed to unfold needed to be very different than you usually find in Christian books. So I actually spent 6 months learning to write and structure things like a Malcolm Gladwell book. Yeah. So it was just 6 months of that's not normally how I think or I write, but I love the way that he does his books. Outliers is just such a brilliant book. Yeah. And it grabs people, it's entertaining, and it's confronting in a very almost pastoral way some of the assumptions that you have, and then teaches you how to do something that's different out of that. And so that's how I framed the book, and that's what it feels like when you open it up.
Gotcha. I love the idea that a lack of innovation means you're on your way to being an ineffective leader. You can start out with these dreams, these big ideas, but when you fail to innovate, and now you're saying it's not once a generation, our big ideas don't last 20 years. They don't last 10 years. They last about a year and a half. A lack of innovation equals an ineffective leader. I think if we understood that, if that was a part of kind of the DNA of leaders, they would grab a hold of innovation, kingdom innovation, wholeheartedly. I cannot wait to get my copy of this. When is the launch day? When can we expect to see it? When can we have it in our hands?
Yeah. October 6th is the launch
October
date.
6th.
Go to Amazon like everyone and his mother does. And it's crazy. I think 78% of new books are sold on Amazon.
Wow.
We'll have, we have hard copy ebooks and audiobook will be available.
Gotcha. Who's reading the audiobook? Because that's a big deal.
It's me. It is literally me. And because of the pandemic, I've not been able to get to a studio. So I literally go, you can see it behind me, there's a closet, and I go in there surrounded by clothes to deaden the sound, and then I've got a blanket over top of me. It is the jankiest studio.
Yes.
The sound quality is actually really good. And then I send it over to a friend of mine actually in Atlanta, and he's mastering it.
So now when I hear the audiobook, I'm going to picture you surrounded by jeans with a blanket over your in, hunched over.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, the best inspiration comes when you're just under a blanket, just trying to read your own book. That's awesome. Doug, I am excited. This is going to be great. I think this is going to be a blessing to, like you said, not just kingdom leaders, but any sector, anyone that's looking to really understand what the changes that are happening under our feet, right around us, and how we can engage innovation in a way that's going to make us effective leaders no matter where we are. Doug, thank you for stopping by the podcast. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, for everyone else that's listening online, you can join us on leadingasleaders.com for additional content. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes, and hopefully something we've said today helps you as you're leading as leaders. Thanks, everyone.